You're listening to Tapestry, a podcast by a music lover for music lovers. I'm your host, Kelly. Music is a thread that weaves a course throughout our lives. Join me on a journey to unravel that thread and bring you the stories behind what inspires musicians to create. Side note, Tapestry is an uncensored podcast. Don't say I didn't warn you. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 55 of Tapestry, where today I was joined by two members of the Southampton-based math rock band Sketchshow, those two men being Scott Vanderleiden, the drummer, and Will Sales, the bassist. They had a lot to share with me today, and even though the entire band couldn't be present, I still had a lot of ground covered, and we discussed everything from their huge array of influences and favorites, including Lewis Cole, Tom Misch, Arcane Roots, The Killers, Snarky Puppy, Buddy Rich, Genesis, and more, on coming from totally unrelated musical backgrounds and how they joined the band, backlining drums for Thank You Scientist, their varied careers outside of music, the acoustics of hi-hats, and much, much more, mostly discussing their debut album, Waves. And here's a little bit of a track called Chrysalis from that same album.
Those people go, push them out the door if they made you feel worse than you did before. Then we transform.
For being here. Today's guests are going to be Scott and Will from the band Sketchshow, and since you two are kind of the representatives for your five-piece band today, that means you get to tell exactly the narrative and the story that you want, and nobody else is here to defend themselves. But no, I want to hear more about the band, but because you two are the ones that are here, why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit about each of your musical histories and kind of how you met and your involvement in the band.
Okay, Scott, do you want to go first? Because I think you've probably got the origin.
Yeah, sure.
Of the band a bit better than I do.
Yeah. So my personal music history, I guess I could talk about that. So I started playing drums in year 8, which is I think 7th grade for you guys.
Yeah, I think
so.
That's about
I
right.
was like, how old are you in year 8? 12. Yeah.
12, 13.
Yeah, and I just took a loving to drums straight away. It's just so fun. I feel like it's one of the most accessible instruments because, as a kid, you can just whack the hell out of them, and it's just so fun. You get an instant feedback from them, straight away, without having any technique or anything. You can just smack a drum, and it just sounds great.
I want you to know I'm a drummer, and I literally brought this up on a date last night, so I'm fully on board. Yes.
Nice.
Amazing. That's great.
It's the instant feedback. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, as a kid, that's so fun. And my parents were really into they really loved Genesis. And we had a video of Genesis live at Wembley Stadium. And there's a bit where Phil Collins and Chester Thompson, they do a drum duet. And I used to just watch that on repeat because it's just so cool. I don't know if you've seen that, but
yeah.
it's epic. They've got drums everywhere, 2 massive drum kits. And I was just like, oh my God, that's so cool.
What it seriously is such an English thing to have we could just stick to one drummer, but King Crimson goes, no, 3 is the appropriate number. That seems okay. So
yeah.
I'm going to look that up though.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. And also I'm half Dutch. So I call my grandma my Oma. And she was really into jazz. And she showed me Buddy Rich. And so I got the inspiration of the rock side from Phil Collins and that, and then the jazz side from watching Buddy Rich, and he was just ridiculously choppy drummer, amazing.
Yeah. No wonder you ended up in a math rock kind of thing. That's almost the perfect blend between the two.
Yeah, it almost is actually. Yeah. And then in in school I had a couple of bands and stuff, and it's just always been my main like passion. I've just loved drumming forever, really. And then it went to Southampton Uni, and basically was kind of mixing around with it in the jam sessions there. And I think Adam reached out to me through a friend because he was writing his own songs.
And he's your guitarist, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
One of them.
So like from kind of knowing similar people in the music scene in Southampton Uni, he basically got in touch with me and was like, "Hey, I want to start my own band." And he showed me his Guitar Pro demos of like his mathy stuff. And I've never really been into like math rock technically. I didn't even know it was a thing when I started the band. And I was just like, "Whoa, these time signatures! What the fuck?" But and I just think like I love Adam's writing style. Like he's such a boppy writer. Like he just writes such hooky, like catchy stuff. So yeah, I instantly loved his music. So we formed. It was me, Adam, and Luke, and then we had Joel, who was our bassist previously, who features on our new album. He's an amazing pianist. So we've got him doing a piano solo in a song called Trust. Yeah. So then we were looking around for singers for a while, for quite a long time, and then we stumbled across Satin, and it was amazing. Like the session we had with Satin for the first time, because we were like auditioning quite a lot of singers, and as soon as we interviewed Satin, we were like, right, this is like no question. We were all just so happy because she's just got so much passion behind her vocals.
She certainly has a unique style, doesn't she?
Yeah, she really does.
Yeah, I loved listening to this album, and I feel so privileged to have gotten to hear it before everybody else, because it doesn't come out for 5 days technically. I know after this interview will be posted, it'll be out, and you should go listen to it. But past me is telling future me it's really good, and I'll have to ask you more about that as we kind of fold Will in here. I want to learn about your history as well. But I think your singer. She just lends such a really fun, like, just, I don't know, bubbly feeling to the music. And it's already very bouncy and vibrant and lively. And I was like, because I had the local files, I couldn't like stream it while I was going about my day, but I was listening to it while I was just like cooking in my kitchen, and I'm like dancing around my kitchen. It just awesome. Fit. I can see why you guys were like, yep, she's the one. Perfect.
Yeah, she's just great, and that's her personality as well. She's just like one of those people that's just like got so much love to give to everyone.
Well, even just like the band photo, like the one you sent me to use for everything, she just has this big open mouth singing into the microphone. She just looks like the friendliest, nicest person. So I hope if she listens to this, she's like, okay, cool.
She will be, trust.
Yeah, good. No, she just seems like a really wonderful person. But yeah, okay, that's a very good foundation. Will, how did you get involved in the band then?
So I suppose dating back to my history of music to begin with. So I was originally a guitarist. So I've been playing since I was 8, doing classical. And then like a year or so later, I moved on to electric when I was introduced to, I guess, more current music. So I always used to listen to, I don't know, like the Beatles and such, due to my parents' upbringing. And I don't know who introduced me to it, but getting into bands like Green Day and pop punk and that sort of vibe, I was like, I really want to learn how to play electric guitar. Okay. So from the age of about 10 onwards, that was my aim. Pretty much all the way up until year 8. So again, similar for when Scott started. And then I had the chance to pick up a bass for the first time. And I was like, okay, it's different, similar, but it's going to be a different sort of mindset that you have to incorporate when you're actually playing the instrument. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll give this a go and just sort of play it in the background. And then fast forwarding on to university, which again, I was at the University of Southampton. I didn't know Scott personally at this point, but I did know Adam and Joel. And then as we were interacting through this university society together, we ended up being like the main committee members. So it got to a point where I was running it, and those two were part of my committee. So I had
you mean like actually like a social, like a musical social group?
We ran a music society.
Oh, okay.
Which was where the jam sessions came in.
Can I ask a question then? This may sound stupid, but was it like as an analog to like the American college society, like the kind of like fraternity sorority thing, or was it just like a club? I don't know a lot about how.
I'm gonna go with the first one. I think it's that.
Okay.
So like you sign up and you have members and stuff, and
yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to think to what degree of formal it is, because I was in a music-based sorority in college, and I didn't know it, because that, it requires a fair amount of commitment, and you do like volunteer things that are based around our school of music, and it's all music-based service, but I wasn't sure if what you guys were involved in was more of like a, hey, we're all people who want to become better musicians and make friends through music, join.
It
sounds fun.
A bit of, it's kind of a bit of both. It's basically, it was a free society, so anyone could come along and join in. We would host band events at various points throughout the year. We would have more internal university-based events where we would form groups, maybe do like tribute acts. There was one really neat thing, which was a collaboration with one of the dance societies.
Oh,
so
how cool.
we were doing the music for them.
Yeah.
Which was quite neat, actually.
This is all really new to me. I'm going to have to ask my British friends,
help,
what is this? Is this a thing at like every school there? But I love it, yeah.
Yeah, no, I really loved it.
That's awesome. I didn't know that you helped run it, Will.
Yeah, I was the president in 2016.
I had no idea. I just did not know that.
Wow, the things you learned.
No, so that was basically me and my musical background at university. I ended up going to watch, I think it was your first gig, Scott. I cannot remember the location of it, but it was one of their first
Talking
gigs.
Heads.
Yes.
Oh,
Talking Heads.
Wow.
So there's a picture that they took. I think Satin wanted to take a photo to commemorate it. You can see me at the front with my beer just holding it up like that.
Little did you know, however amount of time later. Oh,
I would love to be in this band so much.
Yeah, Will, were you like living the dream? Because I've definitely had that. I think any like big fan of any band has had that fantasy where they go see them and they're like, God, that would be so cool if I was in this band. But then you got to actually do it.
Well, yeah, it was interesting because my musical style is actually more based around like hard rock and metal. So math rock, whilst there are links, obviously, it's not necessarily something I would have jumped to.
Right.
So, and especially not playing bass, as I said, I was a guitarist primarily. So it's more the fact that I was asked, I think it was around December 2018, they were looking for a new bassist, and I was just going to jump on to help them out.
Right.
Yeah, because we were recording at the time this album, and we were due to record. Okay. We had Joelle left maybe a year before that. My timeline is, I just don't really have a timeline in my head, but Joelle left, and then we auditioned for bassist, and then we got a bassist to come in, and he was great. But then he basically, after 2 months, he was like, nah, I can't do this. 2 months. I think he was a uni student at Chichester.
I just had the same thing happen with our band. We had a singer for one practice, and then he's like, school, sorry.
Yeah.
Better to find it out early. So
Exactly.
But that was like 2 weeks before we were due to record.
Oh.
So it was like, fuck, we need a bassist quick. Who can learn all this stuff and record it. And Will, you did a massive solid.
So that's when Adam came up, and effectively I was a session bassist for the recording side of things. So if you were to look at the credits, if you were to look at the credits, I've only done about maybe 2/3 of the album. That's because there was a solid number of songs to learn.
Yeah.
Not
easy to learn either.
No,
exactly.
that's why I'm shaking my head, because like I also play bass. I'm teaching myself. I'm not good at it so far, but I'm trying to think of how you said you started on guitar, then you just learned bass, and then you're like, oh, sure, I'll just go fill in on this band's album, like on the fly. Like that is not an easy task, and you're right. It is not.
There's
It is
so
not
much
necessarily
paper on the floor.
Yeah, it is not necessarily.
I was like trying to read all the sheets. I was like, where am I?
Well, I'm sure I'll get into that later, because I'd love to learn how you guys both learned, especially complex music like this, because it's something I struggle with as a musician. But before the thought leaves my brain, I want to ask, I think it's very interesting that the two of you are the ones I'm talking with today, and you're both people who, it sounds like you come from an entirely different genre of music, but you wind up in a band that doesn't sound anything like kind of what your home base is. So what about those kind of disparate experiences have you brought into writing for a band that sounds nothing like what you play? I mean, how has that been helpful? Has it been difficult?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting. I think me and you, Will, we have really different backgrounds for music. We're literally like coming at math rock from the two opposite sides, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I never really played music that was like heavy and technical in a math rock sense. I was more like into like pocket and groove, and like I've always loved jazz so much. But I think, I don't know, I just learn the rhythm. I don't count the rhythms or anything. I just learn them in my head, and then I just play whatever rhythms I feel like matches them. But I don't know. I don't really. I guess I just bring my own style to it, and that's what's cool about the band is we all have such different styles. It's literally just like a mesh of like all of us together, which is what
the
makes it
hardest
sound.
thing is definitely making those styles blend.
Right.
Which
that's God.
Because like if we are combining something like hard rock with jazz with odd time signatures, then it's like, how does this work? Especially considering the band already has its own established sound.
Yeah,
like that was the hardest thing for me. I've gone from writing music which I like, well, not that I don't like music, it's music which I'm used to, that's a better way of putting it, to how can I now make it sound like this band?
You probably are essentially, you're going to work at the same company, but you're showing up for a different shift. It's like, you know, hey, I like doing this thing, but I know I have a job to do, and how do I assess my skills and make them work, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that I'm in a band role, I can see how difficult that is, because, you know, you're sitting in a room with, well, in your case, you got 5 people, and you're trying to go, okay, what's the goal here, and how do we accomplish it? Ugh. It's fun. I say that and I'm like, ugh, but it's fun. It's obviously so that's fun. The magic of it. That's why you keep doing it. I love assume.
It. Yeah. I love getting a song like, so typically the way we do it is Adam and Luke. This is like how we used to do it, and we're kind of changing it now. Like we're like, Will, you're writing stuff as well now. But before it was Adam and Luke would write together, or like Adam would start a song. And they'd write in Guitar Pro often.
Okay.
And then they'd bounce it off each other and then like form it into a song. And then they would typically send it across to me, and then I'd put it into GarageBand and like do like MIDI drums over it. And I'd spend a while like trying to find out drums that I could play, but also trying to like push my ability as well.
Oh, that's interesting that you programmed the drums first and then try to play them. Yeah,
like that's the only way I could deal with math rock, I think, because I don't think I'm a good enough drummer to like do math rock on the spot, you know.
Grab your calculator, everybody. Wow, yeah.
So it's the kind of music where you can't jam it out. It's not like, oh yeah, okay, so then we got this verse and then this chorus, and then we just like do like 4 bars of this, 4 bars of that, and then we didn't write in the same room. We would write on the computer basically. So I'd program it in, and then I'd learn the rhythms by like repeated listening of the song, and then I'd try to like accentuate the rhythms that were in both guitars and in the bass, and trying to like bring it to life a bit more. And then I'd learn it at home, and and then we like practice it together. So yes, and then sometimes we would write in like the rehearsal room. Like sometimes like ideas would come up, but then like Adam and Luke would go away and then put them into Guitar Pro. So like they're very like methodical.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've asked this question like basically every time I've had an interview, and the answer still always surprises me because every single person is so different, and it's always great to hear like when you get into a band setting that whether you're friends or not, or you're just colleagues, you can all sit down and go, okay, here's how we're going to do this.
Well, to finish off the process, I guess, like then Satin usually then writes over the top. So like we'll send her stuff and she'll record stuff, or she'll like think of ideas in the rehearsal. But that's such a hard job for her to like write on top of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's really tricky.
God bless her.
Yeah.
For any vocalist, I think I'm finding that being a front man or front woman, everyone thinks that's like, oh, that's the job I want. And I'm like, it probably sucks. You gotta really, really be good at melody writing and working with the hooks and like the feeling and all the stuff that you guys as the instrumentalists set up. That is not an easy job.
Yeah. She's got a really good ear for rhythm. So she's really good at like feeling the song and like finding the right like vocal rhythms that match. That's really cool.
That's such a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Will, is your process much of the same? Are you a program first, play later, or are you more of a sit there and hash it out kind of guy?
It's kind of both, to be honest. And I always approach it guitar first as well. I never write bass parts first.
Really?
Yeah. I think that is because I come from a guitar background. So any song which I've written, which Scott was mentioning, has been guitar part first, then I'll put the bass underneath. So bass isn't always going to be as complex as I maybe would like it, because I like to play complex parts for no apparent reason. I just like technical playing.
Yeah.
Your songs are really technical.
They are.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen with a new ear and be like, okay, what's Will
but
doing?
It's always come up with those parts and then put in some kind of groove underneath. So this is where the different mindset comes in. From whichever instrument I'm playing. As for drums, I know that Adam sometimes does write drums, but Luke doesn't.
Luke hates writing drums.
I remember. I will sometimes give it a go if there's a clear vision that I can sort of see with the song. Like if there's a direction I'd like it to go in, but other times Scott is the person I'm going to leave it to. Because he's obviously much more proficient than I am.
That's so fascinating to me, though, to hear you guys say that, because it's almost like, a lot of times bands they'll be like, okay, I have equals like shared songwriting duties. But when you hear that, you think, well, what does that mean? Is it like, okay, I stick in my lane, I stick to my instrument? But it sounds like you guys are like, hey, the bassist might want to write a guitar part, and the drummer might want to suggest a vocal line. I'm sure that is what lends to the very like organic and full quality of your music, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I've ever interviewed anybody who said, I'm just going to let the bassist writes the drum parts and the drummer writes this. That's cool though. It's really interesting.
Yeah,
I'm looking at my list of things here, going, how do I improve upon a question like that? Like, what's your writing process like? But you guys pretty much handled it.
I guess we covered it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do want to ask some questions about specifically the new album Waves. And so it sounds like you guys kind of got together around 2018-ish. You worked on that first EP. And then I just wanted to get at what the heart of this album Waves is about, and kind of, the things in each of your lives that kind of led you here to this album. I didn't know if it represents anything in particular or signifies something.
Satin's vocals are very based on her personal experiences.
Yeah, I think she was going through a bit of a low point at some of the parts of writing the album. So a lot of it is reflective of maybe issues or experiences that she's had during that time.
Okay.
So it's kind of like an artistic outlet for her.
Definitely, yeah.
I gotcha.
So we kind of have the foundation for her to put her own meaning behind the songs, I think. For me, I just love writing drums.
That's
Drums go burr.
That's a perfectly good answer. Yeah, like I think when people discuss music a lot of times, just as I just did, they look for their meaning. They look for meaning sometimes where there really is none. I'm not saying there's no meaning, but it's just some people may just have the enjoyment of going, yeah, I just want to be in a room and play music with people. I don't really care if it's like a conceptual undertone about my meaning of life or some complex thing. It's like you guys are playing math rock. It's fun. It's twinkly. It's you know.
Exactly.
Is it possible to write depressing minor key math rock? I'm not really sure if it is.
I don't know, but I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah.
I like the sound of it. Everything I write sounds depressing.
Well,
it's just there's something about the minor key. It's just interesting to write in.
Pensive.
It portrays a lot of emotion.
Well, Will, do you write your own solo stuff outside of Sketchshow, or?
I have done, yeah. Again, it's very different, and it's normally very experimental. So I never really publish it. It's just for my own personal enjoyment, to be honest, to stretch my musical outlet. But yeah, I've tried some of my own stuff.
Talk about opposite ends of the spectrum. You got this bouncing math rock thing going on.
Yeah, I dabble in my own songwriting stuff as well, and my stuff tends to be more like soul and like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like.
Huh.
I'm just really into like a lot of the South London jazz stuff. So like Tom Misch, if you know.
I do know Tom Misch. I didn't know he's from that scene though. His music is fantastic.
Jordan Rakai and Alpha Mist and those kind of people, really cool.
I can't believe I knew two of the three people you just said, but
awesome.
they're great.
Yeah, they're so cool. So I think in my own like stuff, I just really love that kind of music. I'm really into Anderson .Paak as well at the moment.
Okay.
So it's just like really different.
Well, that would maybe kind of explain. I'm looking at my note here, seeing, I think Luke was the one I was communicating with. He gave me a good bio and stuff. And as a band, you guys have shared the stage with a lot of interesting like prog rock and math rock bands. But the one that leaps out to me is Thank You Scientist. And that kind of would make a lot of sense if you're into like the jazz fusion rock sort of thing. And I mean, I'll break the fourth wall here, but like any listeners who have not heard Thank You Scientist, imagine if like Michael Jackson started a prog pop band and just like had this wild like sax, violin, trumpet thing going on. I mean, I go back and listen to my old episodes. I interviewed them, but that's they encompass a very, very niche spot in the music world. So to be able to be on a headline with them, like, how did that happen? What was that like?
Oh, that was best show ever.
Yeah, amazing experience. I have a habit of recording our videos as well, so we can post them on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I managed to get one of the gigs we did with them. But the best one was by far when we performed in Birmingham, and I'm so annoyed that I didn't have a camera set up for that, because it just blew my mind.
We were about to set it up, weren't we? But we were like, there's nowhere to put the camera. Let's just leave it. And then I was just going to say it was just so good. It was just the vibe, the crowd were going mental, and like that's just one of those things where you're like, this is why I play music. There's just so much energy there, and
and they were such cool guys as well. Just chilling with them afterwards.
Did you guys follow them on their little tour for a bit, or like was that like a one show only thing?
Yeah, we did 2 shows. We joined them in Nottingham and Birmingham.
Okay.
And then I think they went elsewhere afterwards.
Well, I'm thinking about this, and I know obviously they're an American band, so I don't know what kind of resources they bring with them when they're overseas. But I remember when I talked to I think it was Tom. I believe one of the band members' fathers records all of their shows. I feel like that might be the case. So I'm only saying that because like you're like, dang it, I can't believe we didn't record this. You literally might want to just like shoot them a message and go,
that's a good idea.
Did your dad record this show? Because I believe they did. At least the stateside
because we're still in contact with them, aren't we, Scott? So
yeah,
we'll do that.
Go, insider tip. No, I just remember, talking to them, and I thought, oh, that's like, it was so fun that they're like, oh yeah, my dad comes along and records everything. I think it was either that or he like helps do some of the video editing. But
sure.
those guys put on an absolutely insanely fun show. So I can only imagine what that feels like.
Yeah. What was awesome as well is they used my drum kit. That was really cool.
Yeah, Cody used my bass amp as well.
Yeah.
Wow. You're like, I'm never washing this bass amp again.
Well, I hope not. It'll probably break.
Wow. So you got to backline Thank You Scientist, basically.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Oh my God. Scott, is your kit, like, do you have all kinds of fun add-ons and doodads and stuff? Or
No, I don't. I've just got simple. 1 up, 1 down. 3 cymbals.
Really?
Yeah. I've never
stretching
done
the limits of creativity.
Yeah, I just never really, having talked earlier about how in awe I was of like Phil Collins with this like massive drum setup. I've just never really, I've just kind of enjoy the minimalism and like trying to create what you can with what you got. I think it leads to more creativity as well.
That's a question I do like to bring up, is like putting limitations on creativity. But I remember watching the little trailer that you guys put out on your Facebook. It's like a minute long thing with some of the upcoming stuff. And there's one little shot that I can see. Someone's on the floor. I don't know which one of you it was. Someone's on the floor with this little green like steel drumming type thing.
Yeah.
That's Scott.
So,
where is it? I've got it in this room.
Yeah, like
it's the tongue drum, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have it.
I believe you.
My sister bought it for me for Christmas. And I was basically, oh, this is so cool. And I was like, oh, maybe I could add some layers to the album with this drum.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I was thinking about Trust Isn't Easy. It's in that song. It's definitely in the background. But the key of the tongue drum is in the exact same key as Trust Isn't Easy, just by chance. So I was like,
wow,
sick. So I like doubled the guitar part in the second verse with it.
Okay.
In the middle section where there's like the piano solo, there's like a loop of that drum that goes round.
And what's it called again?
Tongue drum.
Oh, a tongue drum, yeah.
Tongue drum. Okay. And you just play it with little mallets, it looks like.
Yeah. It sounds really like ethereal and beautiful. It's really nice.
Or did you guys hide any other little like Easter egg type things like that in the album? Or are there any weird secrets that people need to be listening for?
There's some hi-hats that I recorded in my bathroom over.
Okay.
Like I went a bit mental with like recording percussion, and that's partly why it took so long for the album to be released, because I was like, I'm not happy with it.
We went for Scott in the bathroom.
Scott, I'm gonna make an assumption here based on your pedigree and your influences. You probably know who Lewis Cole is, right?
Yes.
Okay, so did you take the Lewis Cole approach, like I'm gonna record this in the staircase and this outside my house and put a dumbbell on my snare and then do this part in a van while I'm on Yeah.
I think that's what he's actually one of my big influences, because we saw Noah live in the Jazz Cafe. Me, Adam, Joel, and my girlfriend.
That's who you guys remind me of a little bit. That's what I was looking for. It's Noah. It's
really.
Noah. I think so a little bit. With you got the Genevieve's vocals kind of and the fun jazzy like boppy stuff going on in the back.
Oh, that gig was amazing, and I was like 2 meters away from Lewis Cole, and I was fangirling so hard.
Yeah, I think what he's doing for I don't even know what you call his scene or his style. I mean, it's like fusion, jazz, rock, electronic. Like he truly really doesn't have a style, but I think the energy that guy brings to performed music is just something totally unique. And there is nobody out there really like Lewis Cole right now.
Absolutely. He's definitely found his own style. Like that's one of the hardest things as a musician, is to like have your own niche that you sit in and like you just do it really well. Like all the drums he plays are basically the same kind of style. And he's he's just so good at it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and he's like crazy proficient. But like even down to the video editing and just like all the thought that goes into those music videos and the looping and the placement and like it's pretty insane. Yeah, no, that's cool though. I always like hearing from a musician saying like, well, yeah, I wanted to do something different and I just like hid this little part in here. It's like, well, you know, when you tell me that means I'm going to go back and listen to the album and sit there and try to find all the little goofy things you did.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the experience. But yeah. I guess that leads me to ask, how do you guys feel like you know when a song is complete, or you know when your part is really, that's it?
That is a good question.
I think a project is never finished, it's just abandoned.
Like, it's never finished, it's just abandoned.
Wait, what?
As a writer, I think you're inherently never happy with, you always think you can add more. I get that so badly. Like, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and with the album especially, I was like, it's not good enough, and I was always just adding parts, and yeah.
Because chatting with the other guys, they also said similar things, to be honest. So if given the option, they probably would have done something slightly different or recorded the instrument a different way.
Yeah, like Luke is really good at just cutting it off.
There has to be a line that's drawn, because otherwise, if you do too much, you can ruin the outcome.
Right.
Like, there needs to be an optimal amount.
Yeah.
So,
and like what I think Luke's good at just saying like, no, if you're not happy with it, then next time write it better, write it differently. But this is this. We've presented this, and this is us, and we can just grow from whatever experience. Whereas I'm like, no, just try and change as much as possible, like to the last second.
Well, speaking of changing as much as possible, I took a screenshot of this because I wanted to ask you about it, and I could lead to a conversation about like online music and streaming. But I took a screenshot of your Spotify playlist that is called Fix Our Spotify, and I feel very frustrated for you. So it sounds like what happened is, because your band is called Sketchshow, there's apparently a Japanese duo that's also called Sketchshow, and the algorithm confuses you two constantly. So you're like not the crossover. I'm assuming that's a band that has a totally different sound than you guys. And so when people go to Spotify to search for your album under your name, they're getting all these weird like Japanese bands that don't sound anything alike. Like, has it been a huge challenge, like trying to promote your sound and social media and like streaming, all that stuff? Because you now have this additional hang up that you didn't ask for. Like, how has that gone?
Yeah, it is annoying. Like, I don't know how much, it's hard to see how much of an effect that like Sketchshow problem had. Who knows? I find it, I'm not really very clued up on like all the social streaming stuff.
No, I think that's largely down to Luke and Scott, who have been managing that.
Okay, well,
it's definitely the issue has definitely been addressed to some degree, as like our recommended artists are now changing to more like
it's actually worked
and similar.
Good.
Yeah,
because I saw that and I thought that's actually a really good approach. You're like, hey, look, here's a problem we have. So, because I think, it says like, these are bands we'd love to see in our people also like feed, basically. Yeah. So in a sense, you're almost kind of taking a negative and turning it into a positive by kind of getting the upper hand and telling the algorithm, hey, we're trying to feed you and our listeners with the types of bands we like and the types of bands we feel we are similar to. Whereas, most bands don't actually get to do that.
Yeah,
you really think about it.
Ugh. Yeah. It looks like it's gone. The problem's solved now, though. Like, I don't know if it's going to come back, but when you look at our fans also like thing, there's like no Japanese bands anymore.
Not that there's anything wrong with Japanese bands. But...
I actually listened to our radio, and I was like, actually, some of this stuff is really cool, but it's not really what we want on our in our scene. But
I don't know why my Spotify is not working at the moment, but. Well, yeah,
feel
like
it might creep back on us though. I don't know.
I hope I didn't
Guess
jinx
who's
anything.
back?
Yeah. That's also really funny too that it's like this Japanese duo, because like to me when I think of math rock and stuff a little bit similar to your music, I kind of think of like Tricot and Mouse on the Keys, and I think it's Jizue is how, I don't know how you say that band, but those are like all clearly Japanese based math rock bands, and I could see the overlap, and I'm like, oh my god, this has to be so frustrating for them from a promotional standpoint. Like,
Yeah.
The list of influences I was given, I found very cool and exciting because they're all bands that I listen to. But
cool.
the list that Luke gave me as, you know, bands that are maybe similar or influential on Sketchshow would be, I'll just read this out: Aurora, Paramore, Snarky Puppy, Chon, Arcane Roots, Periphery, and Polyphia. That is an absolutely eclectic mix, and I love it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I only listened to about half of those, so
You're fired. You're no longer in the band.
Yeah, same here actually.
Scott, you're also fired.
Adam and Luke are the end four. I think they're like really.
No, which ones are you, Scott? I'm intrigued.
Wait, can you read the list again?
Yeah, we have Aurora, Paramore,
Satin.
Snarky Puppy. I would assume would be you, Scott.
Yeah. And
Chon.
Adam.
Yeah, Chon. Arcane Roots. Would that be you, Will? That's definitely more of the kind of heavier.
Actually,
I've only heard one Arcane Roots song, but I do know of them, so I know the style.
Actually,
and then,
Melancholia Hymns is actually one of my favorite albums.
It's a fantastic album.
I'm not into that scene, but like that album, Luke sent it to me and was like, "I think you'd like this." And then it's one of those albums, you know, you just go to if you're like a long car journey. You're like, "Oh, I'll listen to Melancholia Hymns on that."
I just listened to it, I think, last week, and that's a band I get really sad about, thinking that they're not a band anymore, because they really put out such unique stuff. And then the last two would be Periphery and Tongue Twister. Periphery and Polyphia.
Yeah, those two would be
those
me.
Two.
And Paramore, actually. So all the P's.
You know, I feel kind of bad for Hayley Williams, because a lot of times what happens is you get like a rock band with a female singer, and suddenly everyone's like, we sound like Paramore. I'm like, you really don't at all. But
I feel like, it kind of annoys me a lot as well. Like when we get played on the radio, and they're like, "Oh, Paramore vibes there, definitely." You're like, okay,
so you're listening to the vocals, and it's a fact it's a woman.
Yeah,
right.
That is literally where it's gone.
Cool. That's the only overlap. Neat. Okay. So, are you guys? I just heard you say, "Hey, when they play us on the radio, have you guys gotten like a fair amount of radio play, or like university radio, or like small stations and stuff?"
So we've been on, is it BBC Solent, BBC Introducing? Yeah, so we've submitted all three of the singles to there, and all three of them have been accepted and played a number of times.
Yeah, they played them loads, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They also did it with the EP, which is quite nice, for a couple of tunes.
Yeah.
So that's been great. It's just been content for us to share and make people aware of. And it's definitely had a bit of an impact on our following. So we're slowly getting more and more people following us on social media, which is nice.
I think oftentimes I'm a singles avoider usually. Like I tend to wait for the full album to come out.
Same here.
Yeah, but I guess, you know, especially because as we're talking today on the 2nd of May, your new album is not technically released yet to the public. So it sounds like you guys have been building the hype, and it's been working out for you.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
which is good. That's
slowly.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, what are your, I guess, expectations about the new album? Like, what would be the ideal situation for you guys? You know, is it like, hey, we want this to help us be able to play shows once the pandemic's over, or do you just want to get it out there and see what people think?
I would say kind of both. Do you agree, Scott?
Yeah, I think so. I'm apprehensive. Like, it's so weird when you spend like so much of your time writing something and it's just sent out into the world, and I have no idea what people will actually think of it.
Yeah, you feel so vulnerable to
Yeah, you
everyone's
do a bit.
criticism, regardless whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it seems to have been received well from people who have listened to the singles, which is really nice. And yeah, the fact that I've been able to join in at the last moment, it just makes me proud to be part
awesome.
of the little group, which is nice.
Yay! You're like, oh.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. Hopefully it will allow us to do some performances. I know everyone's busy with their schedules because this isn't like our main career. This is very much a hobby for all 5 of us, I believe.
Yeah, like we all have other jobs and we live in different areas. It's kind of for me. It's my creative outlet, like by far.
Yeah. I thought I did hear you say that before. I know the band is kind of centered around Southampton, but where are you? How far are you guys spread out?
So actually now, like
hours away.
So Satin moved north, but then she came back. So she's in Southampton again now. And you guys are all actually in Southampton, aren't you?
I'm now just around the corner from Adam.
Yeah,
I've just moved house.
You were Weymouth for a while, and now you're literally near Adam. Yeah. But I'm in Bristol, which is on the west coast.
Oh, you're a fair amount away. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like 2 hours drive. But it's okay. Like we can meet up on it's far enough. It's close enough that we can meet up for a day on a weekend. And, like book a rehearsal room and like play together.
Yeah, we used to have a real issue because me and Scott had opposite schedules. So whereas I'm a teacher, I would have been teaching Monday through to Friday and only had the weekend free. Whereas Scott would necessarily like been busy over the weekend.
Yeah,
but be free in the weekday.
My girlfriend, I used to live near Bristol, and my girlfriend used to live in London. So at the weekends we would see each other. So it really conflicted. But now I live with my girlfriend, so I can go away on weekends. So.
Moving on up. Yeah. Oh God, Will, you said you're a teacher though. Like, do you sleep? Do you sleep? Do you
know what? Since changing to this job, yes, I do.
Nice.
Okay. But I have a real habit of gaming through the night, so maybe not. No, it's cool. It's cool.
I respect you so much for being a teacher.
Yeah, maths teacher as well.
Oh, jeez.
Teach some math rock.
Yeah. Do you?
I mean, there's good links to math and music.
Do you ever like try to illustrate problems or teach your kids with music?
Yes, I do actually. There was when I was doing sequences in one of my lessons. I used the Fibonacci sequence, and I think it was the C major scale. And every time, like the numbers get added together, so it'll be like it starts with a 0, it's just playing the C, and then and then we add a 1, and then you get 1 0 1 1 1 2 2 5, etc., or 2 3 5. I do know my sequences. And then it just makes this really nice sound and this awesome melody. It's like, you see, you can combine music and maths together to create this awesome outcome.
Wow.
I don't think many of them were musical at that point. It shut them up for 2 minutes. But,
I'm assuming you're teaching like younger kids.
So I'm a secondary school teacher. When I was in Weymouth, I was teaching classes of up to 30. But since coming to Southampton, I'm now teaching at an SEN school, so special educational needs.
Okay.
Children with autism.
Wow.
Which is really nice because the kids are sound. Again, it's similar age groups, 11 to 18 this time, and it's 1-to-1, which means I can have amazing banter with the kids, get them interested in the topics, and if they're struggling, we can bring it in and talk about something they're interested in.
Right. Wow, that's so interesting. Dang, really I gotta see. I don't usually always ask my guests like, oh, what if you don't do music as a career, what do you do as your day job, so to speak? But I think especially musicians tend to be so inclined to carry music as a passion with them throughout their life that it seems crazy that they wouldn't try to somehow relate it to, kind of their living. Scott, do you have an interesting day job that you somehow bring music into or not?
It's sort of related. So I'm an acoustical engineer, which so
that explains the hi-hats in the bathroom.
Yeah, so it's not actually anything to do with music. It's more like, so I work. Have you heard of Dyson?
Like the vacuum?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're based out near Bristol. And and I'm an acoustical engineer for them. So I help make the products quiet. So like, yeah, it's kind of cool-ish.
That's so neat that that's someone's job.
Yeah, so like I test in what's called an anechoic chamber, which is it's a room with like massive foam wedges on the wall, and it's like the quietest room you can make. So you walk in, it's like dead silent, like nothing, and that means you can test the noise of the products like accurately.
You must be doing a fine job, because I know I cannot stand personally when I go into a bathroom and your competitor, the whatever that big silver annoying thing that sounds like an airplane jet taking off when you put your hands under it. When I see that, I legitimately am like, no, I am going to use paper towels because this thing is so loud and annoying. And then when I see the Dyson blade where you just put your hands in it, I was like, oh, it's so quiet. It's so nice.
Yeah.
It's a good job. I don't know if you had anything to do with that, but
I didn't, but thanks.
How did you, like, what did you go to school to study to become that job?
So I actually studied acoustical engineering, which, so it's based in Southampton, and it's basically mechanical engineering, but like you do a couple of different modules. Like we did modules on like how sound propagates through air and lots of maths and shit. But I think there's definitely like a reason I chose acoustics was kind of because of my musical background, because it's all about like how sound travels and vibrates through things, and being a drummer as well. Like I've almost had it as my like not secret, but like my passionate job that I'd want to do one day would be to make drum kits. That'd be so cool. Or like work for DW designing drums.
Yeah, that would keep you busy.
That would be a really cool, career to come out of an acoustical engineering degree. But I just make hand dryers quieter instead.
I mean, it's just I that's why I always love talking to people about their careers, because you just never know. Like I do a job that I think people would think, wait, there's a job for that.
What do you do?
I'm a graphic artist and I work for a sign company, but I will check people's artwork and then make sure it's the right size and the right color before it goes to production. But it's like outdoor signage that you're going to see for like 10 or 15 years.
All right.
And so it's like when you go to a park and you read a sign about rocks or a canyon or bees or something, I either make those and design them, or I look at other people's stuff that they've designed, and or like transit signage or the don't park your car here signage.
Yeah.
That is someone's job to do that and make sure it's right and make sure it's consistent. And I always find talking to people, like, I love hearing about how their careers kind of relay important information about who they are as a person. And I just think that's very cool. But I hope you can get a job working for DW now. That would be that
move
would
out
be so
to California.
Neat.
That'd be
No, don't do that.
Yeah. No, for the sake of the band.
I don't know what kind of drum companies there are in the UK that based in the UK, like Premiere, I think, are UK. But most of them are American.
Any, make one.
I was going to say, yeah.
I could just do that.
You can make that like the stamp of authenticity. It's like literally designed by an acoustic engineer, so you know they're going to sound amazing.
Yeah. I love cymbals as well. Maybe designing cymbals would be more fun, actually, because there's so much variety there, isn't there?
Yeah, but yet you play a minimalist kit. That is so interesting. I guess you must have to be really picky about the sound you want.
Yeah, I think so. I'm never happy. I'm always like, I wish I had drier cymbals. Like, do you know the Killers, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Ronnie Vannucci, I've always loved him. Like, he always has like massive cymbals. Like, he's got an 18-inch hi-hat because he thought his hi-hats weren't coming through enough in the songs. I think on their first album, he said he had to like record him going like over the hi-hats to like make them pop out more.
Wow.
But then in their second album, he used 2 crash cymbals as his hi-hats. And now Zildjian have made some Ronnie Vannucci hats, I think, which are those 2 crash cymbals.
So for the other 5 people in the world who are like, I just need more hi-hats, they can go buy Ronnie Vannucci hi-hats. Wow.
Yeah, but he's always had massive cymbals. Like he doesn't have rides or crashes. He just has big cymbals where you can do both. And I've always loved that.
That's so cool.
like a really complex cymbal where you can get so many different sounds out of it. I think that's way more interesting than having loads of different cymbals.
Yeah, and then like you think about that, and the bar is up here, and then you have the guys playing in local bands who are like, I don't even know how to tune my drums. Like, I just hit it. Whatever.
Yeah,
hey.
I remember like I went to one show and the drummer, we were supporting this band. The drummer had tuned the top tom lower than the floor tom. I was like, what?
That's a big no. I mean, do what you want to do, but like that's very unconventional. Okay. Great. Well, okay. I'm thinking about that now, like just how, each person's kind of setup like reflects who they are. But I could go on and on about drum acoustics probably for like an entire interview, and I won't bore you with that. But
it's cool. I enjoy acoustics, so I'll just with my thumbs.
I'm looking at a couple of my other sort of, wrapping up type questions, but now that you have this album Waves out, and it's, by the time I get this interview out, it'll certainly have been out for a week or two, but what is the next step for Sketchshow, and what are you guys kind of looking for in the future?
Good question.
Well, I'd very much like to get back into doing some gigs. As we mentioned earlier, like with difficult schedules to work around, we're going to be limited as to how many gigs we can actually put out like a year. And it's going to be pretty much at specific times throughout the year, mainly corresponding to Easter, maybe around Christmas, maybe, and summer.
Yeah.
I think that's the only times we're really going to be able to do anything.
Just because of your band availability?
Yeah,
pretty much.
Luke has 2 kids as well.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
okay,
so
yeah.
that's
it gets
like
harder as you get older. It really does.
Yeah.
Like.
So I don't know, like we had a gig lined up, and Luke couldn't make it, and we were considering like, will you learn the guitar, and then we get a bassist in to cover, which would be really hard.
Oh my god.
We may have to be like flexible with that sort of thing to make it work, because we do all have our conflicting schedules.
Yeah.
But I just want to gig as much as we can. Like, I just love gigging. It's my favorite thing in the world. So fun.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But when we have gigs, we will definitely be posting them.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So everyone's aware.
Yeah.
Because I think that's been really one of the biggest tragedies of the ongoing pandemic, is just it takes away such a vital social outlet and creative outlet for so many people.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how much you miss something till it's gone. It's been crushing me.
Yeah, I know. I'm really, really hoping that like gigs will be attended like so much now. Like everyone's just going to be loving it.
Yeah. I know the timeline over here is moving a little differently than in the UK, but just this weekend I could see, I mean, people are out and about, because you can tell people are like, give me that vaccine. Like, I want to go back to normal. Like, give me it now.
Yeah.
We need to resume to normal life. And so I think it's coming.
When are you allowed to be inside with multiple households in America?
Oh,
is there a date for that?
Well, we don't follow rules here, so it's whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
God, I this is embarrassing and shameful to say, but I don't even know that I've been paying attention to it, because I've either been avoiding it or going to places where I've already been with people. I've been breathing the same air.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been with my same coworkers. Like, I have not been working from home because my job can't be done from home. I've just been breathing the same stale coronavirus air of all my coworkers for a year now.
I think it's different in the UK. Like we're obviously like only the size of one of your states, so like we have we have like, we're all following the same rules, I guess, a bit more.
Well, and it sounds like what was it for a while? Wasn't it that you really only were allowed to leave your house if it was like essential grocery and doctor type needs and stuff? Has that restriction been lifted at this point? Like, how are you guys even rehearsing, like that, that sort of thing? You're not. Okay.
I don't think I've seen pretty much any of you.
No.
For months. No. Well, Scott, definitely. I met up with Adam and Luke once. And that was, again, a good couple of weeks ago.
It'll all be over soon, I think.
So,
I hope so anyway.
I can't wait to just get in a room with the guys and just play.
Make some noise.
Yeah.
There's something about it, though. You can't, it's, obviously stupid to even say it out loud, but of course sending Guitar Pro tracks back and forth to your band members is not the same as just getting behind your instrument and playing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a few more things and we'll put a close on this, but I'm stealing this question from a fellow podcaster that I know. He has a local show here, but I love this question. He always asks his guests, if you had a chance to sit down with like any artist alive or dead for a day, you know, who would it be and what would you ask them?
It's going to sound really silly. Mine would probably be Dimebag Darrell.
Really?
I love Dimebag Darrell so much.
Wow.
And I've seen him do interviews on YouTube and such, and he always manages to get the most amazing like squeal harmonics on his guitar. I want to know how he does it. I've tried it exactly how he said it, and I don't get the same result. So I would ask him how he does it.
What do they say? Tone is in the fingers, man. So it's maybe get different fingers. I don't know.
And if he wants to go for a drink, of course.
Well, yeah, if you could turn back time, for sure. But yeah.
Drinks
Scott,
with
what about drinks with time? What about you, Scott?
I think I'd go for Lionel Lewis.
Stellar musician.
Yeah, he's just amazing, and he's just the nicest guy ever. He just seems so nice, and I just want to ask him for some, maybe, can you give me a drum lesson? Maybe.
Oh my God, that guy's, he's like an inhuman drummer, but he just seems so humble and nice and talented.
Yeah,
Ooh.
It's amazing. Like he learnt the We Like It Here album.
Yeah.
Did you hear that he learnt that in 24 hours?
And didn't he learn it like on a plane?
On the plane,
on the way? Like I didn't know the whole story, but I'm like, oh my God, what?
Yeah.
Like, how do you even attain a level of musicianship that you can just show up to a gig like that and basically perfectly fill in the space created for you and do it just like it was like putting a glove on your hand that was designed just for your hand, you know?
What type of music is it? Because I haven't heard this.
That's Snarky Puppy's
right, okay.
Drummer, and like just crazy, technical, jazzy, groovy, like
insane.
I was gonna say, like, I've managed to learn a song listening to it in the car on the way back, but that was nowhere near that sort of.
Will, if you are, if you write your bass parts on guitar and you like technical guitar playing, there's definitely been a rash of insane people on YouTube who, that same song, the We Like It Here by Snarky Puppy, there's an absolutely insane keyboard solo that Corey Henry plays, and people have learned it on guitar and then are posting YouTube videos about them playing it on guitar. And it's just like, you can't even imagine the parallel. But I think as people, and maybe you would agree with this, as people who are playing in a style of music that is so often very technical and kind of out of the norm, I think we get very accustomed to thinking that everyone can play music, that's difficult. So... Or you like listen to technical death metal and you're like, oh yeah, that's easy. It's not easy. And it has been so long since I've watched a video that really makes my jaw just drop. I think his name's Josh Meter or something. But if you just look up Corey Henry keyboard solo on guitar from that song, this guy playing it on guitar, I was sitting there just slack jawed going, how many hundreds, if not thousands of hours of guitar playing did this guy have to do to be able to play that? And that's just something that escapes me.
I kind of hate that culture, but I love it as well. Like, it's amazing that everyone's so accessible and people can like feed off each other and like get so excited about music. But also it's almost like I just end up comparing myself to these like ridiculous musicians, and you can kind of end up thinking like you're crap. Like, I'm like,
the way to think of it is you're you, they're them.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. And you don't want it to be a pissing match, because you'll pick yourself apart and be like, well, I'll never be as good of a drummer as Larnell Lewis, or I'll never be as good of a bassist as so-and-so. And I think it takes a lot of fun out of it too.
It does. Yeah. The competition is just not what music needs. Like, the inspiration is what we need, but the competition is not good.
Well, let me ask you guys this then. If you could change anything about kind of the current musical world, what would you change? I mean, in any form.
Yeah, it's easy to criticize it, but what would you do differently?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would just want artists to get what they're owed, really, especially considering like the whole ordeal with streaming services nowadays.
Yeah.
And the lack of revenue that artists are getting as a result. That's the main thing I want to change.
I know, like what Scott said, you can identify it, but it's like, well, what would you do differently? And I think we'd have the question answered by now if it was an easy answer.
Exactly.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Bit of a shame.
You agree with that, Scott?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. It's a bummer, but I hear that a lot. I mean, I really do.
Yeah.
And you just know that not everyone's going to place the same value on your art that you do, but you know, that's part of being creative and vulnerable, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, are there any things you guys want to bring up about Sketchshow or the new album that we didn't get a chance to discuss? And then I have a signature last question I will drop on you.
Anything else? I don't think so. Nothing on the top of my head.
I just saw Will's whole body go like...
I was just trying to faint. No, I mean, it comes out in 5 days.
Yeah.
I hope everyone likes it. We enjoyed making it.
Check us out on the social media stuff. Check us out.
I'll drop all your links and stuff
awesome.
when in post. But okay, well, thank you guys for sharing your thoughts. Then I'm gonna let you walk away with this last question for each of you. If you could only listen to 3 albums for the rest of your life, what would they be and why?
Oof.
Will, you just hold up your phone. You're like,
I was going to do the same.
I know artists, I don't remember albums.
I'm going to do the same. Get my phone out.
Okay. I suppose the first album, and this is dating back to my whole transition into like pop punk music, would be American Idiot. That is the album which changed it for me.
Okay.
I remember that. I don't even know how old I was, 10 perhaps. That life-changing moment where you hear Billy Joel just say, "The subliminal mind, fuck America," and you're like, "What is this?" my ears, yeah, that was life-changing for me. But that definitely changed things a bit. The second album would probably be, where have they disappeared to? It would be Periphery, Selects Difficulty. So that's Periphery 3.
3. I was just going to say, I was like, choose carefully. No, I'm a big Periphery fan, but I love
Periphery
that album so
3
much.
is fire. Every single song is just great. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know why people thought that was a weak album. I thought it was one of their best.
No, Marigold is my favorite song. So
I'm singing it now. It's in my head.
Third one, that would be a bit tricky. And it would probably be something that's completely different as well. Probably something like Tear. Maybe The Layer Frim or Valkyria. I think that's how you pronounce it, by Tear. It's a... Oh, let me get this right. I can't remember where they're from. I want to say Sweden, but they might be Iceland.
TYR? Is that the name of it?
TYR with a... with the accent over the Y.
Yeah. Aren't they like folk or something?
Yeah, it's folk metal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Faroe Islands, that's it.
Oh wow. They're okay. Yeah, not a usual place you hear about in the music world, but
it's all about like Norse mythology and such in their songs, and I'm a real advocate for Norse mythology. I absolutely adore it. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the new Sketchshow album's gonna be about
it's
Vikings.
all about four.
Okay.
Viking rock.
Interesting answers, Scott. You're in the hot seat now.
Yeah. I'm really bad at picking favorites, but I'm just going to choose 3, and I'm not going to tell myself they're my favorite because otherwise I'll never choose them. So, okay, Choose Your Weapon by Hiatus Coyote. if you know that
good
one.
album. Yes,
I
good
think
album.
that album, like every time I listen to it, I hear more stuff. Like it's just so colorful as an album. I think it took me like 7 listens to actually really, really enjoy it. At first, I was like, this is just too much to handle. But then, like, yeah, the more you listen to it, the more you hear, and the more you get used to it. And yeah, I love Perrin Moss.
That's a band that does details very, very well.
Absolutely, yeah. Perrin Moss as a drummer, he's just so cool. He plays so quietly, and so he's just so locked in the groove, and he's so chill, and it's awesome. Yeah. And I think Melancholia Hymns, Arcane Roots, like I just think it's a beautiful album. There's so much silence as well in that album. Like they do silence so well. There's like a couple of times where there's like a gap of like 30 seconds between 2 songs, but it like really, really works with the flow of the album. Yeah. And then third one, probably one of my Omar's jazz albums that I have on vinyl, because she's not around anymore, but like I've got like a collection of her old jazz from the 60s. And there's one like Dave Brubeck album which I keep getting out, and I just love it. So something like that, one of them.
Wow, that's very cool. No, those are great answers. And you guys, if you were stuck on a desert island, you'd have a pretty good spread, I think, with those. That's quite a diversity of styles.
It really is,
taste,
isn't it?
So. All right. Well, thank you guys for sharing some of your afternoon with me. I had a nice time getting to know you and more about the band.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly.
All right.
Cool. Cheers,
yeah,
Kelly.
thank you. All right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed my interview with Scott and Will of Sketchshow. They're pretty easy to look up. You can find them anywhere you can type Sketchshow UK into a search bar. They are Sketchshow UK on Instagram and Facebook, I believe also YouTube as well. And please do yourself a favor and check out their sophomore album, Waves, and also see if you can go back and find that Patchwork EP as well. As always, thanks for listening.